The night was unusually quiet, with only the faint hum of the streetlights buzzing in the distance. Jonathan sat in his dimly lit apartment, eyes glued to his phone. The group chat had been buzzing with messages, all day friends planning a weekend getaway to the mountains. But Jonathan wasn't paying attention to the trip. Instead, he was fixated on a text from an unknown number. It was 11 o'clock p.m. when the first message came in. "Do you believe in fate?" It said. Jonathan smirked. It had to be one of his friends messing with him. Sure, why not? He responded sarcastically and threw the phone aside. He had always been a skeptic, never one to believe in superstitions or the paranormal. For him, life was logical, calculated, and controlled until tonight. Another message followed a few minutes later. "Sometimes fate finds you when you least expect it," it said. Jonathan felt a slight chill creep up his spine. This didn't feel like a prank anymore. The text had an eerie, almost foreboding tone. He thought about blocking the number, but curiosity got the better of him. "Who is this?" He typed back. The response was instant. "Look outside," it said. He froze. Every fiber of his being told him not to, but he couldn't help himself. Slowly, he rose from the couch and tiptoed to the window. His apartment was on the 7th floor, offering a clear view of the dark, empty street below. There was nothing unusual, just the occasional car passing by and the shadows cast by the streetlights. He stared for a few seconds, then turned back to his phone. Maybe it was just some automated scam text. He shook his head, laughing at his own paranoia. But just as he sat down again, another message flashed on the screen. "Turn off the lights," it said. Jonathan's heart raced. This was no coincidence. Someone was watching him. He quickly scanned the room, suddenly feeling vulnerable in his own home. The windows were closed, the door locked, but still, he felt exposed. He didn't respond this time. Instead, he grabbed his phone and headed to the bedroom, locking the door behind him. Maybe this was just some elaborate joke one he wasn't in the mood for. Minutes passed, and just as he began to relax, another message appeared. "You're not alone," it said. Jonathan's breath caught in his throat. He could feel the adrenaline pumping through his veins now, his mind racing with possibilities. He had seen enough horror movies to know where this was heading, but he wasn't about to fall into the trap. He grabbed a kitchen knife from the drawer and sat by the door, waiting for any sound, any indication that someone was inside. Silence! The only sound was the ticking of the clock, each second feeling longer than the last. Jonathan's phone buzzed again, and his hand shook as he unlocked the screen. "Come to the roof," the message read. His stomach lurched. The roof? Why the roof? His apartment building had access to the roof, but no one ever went up there. It was locked most of the time. At this point, Jonathan was torn between fear and anger. Was someone playing a twisted game with him? He couldn't sit here all night, waiting for the unknown. Against his better judgment, he decided to go. He figured if he went up there, confronted whoever was behind this, it would all be over. The messages would stop, and he could finally get some sleep. He grabbed his jacket and headed for the staircase. As he climbed the stairs, his mind raced. Was it a prank? Was someone really waiting for him? His hands tightened around the knife in his pocket. When he reached the door to the roof, it was slightly ajar. Jonathan hesitated, the cold wind blowing through the crack sending chills down his spine. With a deep breath, he pushed it open. The roof was empty, save for the faint glow of the city lights in the distance. He stepped forward cautiously, looking around for any signs of movement. Nothing. No one. And then, his phone buzzed again. He quickly glanced at the screen. "Look up," it said. Jonathan's heart skipped a beat. He slowly tilted his head back, eyes scanning the night sky. At first, there was nothing but stars and the occasional wisp of a cloud. But then he saw a drone hovering high above, a blinking red light attached to it. It was recording him. His fear quickly turned to anger. This was someone's idea of a sick joke, and he was the target. He shouted into the night, cursing whoever was behind it. He knew he had to get off the roof and call the police, but just as he turned to leave, his phone buzzed one last time. Too late, the final message read. Before Jonathan could react, the roof beneath him gave way. He hadn't noticed the loose tiles by the edge. His foot slipped, and in an instant, he was over the side, plummeting 7 stories to the pavement below. His last thought, a fleeting realization of how foolish it had been to follow those messages, echoed in his mind as the world went dark. The next morning, Jonathan's body was discovered by a neighbor. The police ruled it an accident, one of many tragic deaths from people venturing to rooftops late at night. But the messages on his phone, those were never explained. Perhaps it was fate after all.
Jonathan's death was both shocking and tragically avoidable, rooted in his inability to ignore his curiosity. His overconfidence led him to believe he could handle any situation, but in the end, it was a simple mistake, a misplaced step that sealed his fate.